Yeah, perfect. Perfect. Just waiting on her to join. Just waiting on her to join, and then we'll start.
Hello.
Hi, how are you?
That was quite a journey for us to get to this point, but we finally made it.
A hassle, I tell you, a hassle. But
Oh
hey,
my gosh.
literally, this is the life we're living. Hey, where everything is digital, we just have to adjust with what we.
Literally. I can't even tell you the amount of times I've been on like Zoom calls and there's like 10 people on for a conference call and it's like, is my camera on? Is my mic on? Are you there? Can you hear me? It's yes, yeah. I think the most quoted word for 2020 is, "Can you see my screen share right now?"
And then for us, the millennials is, did you see my request to
Oh
join?
my gosh. There we go. I should make sure that my face isn't too prominent in the camera, otherwise it just doesn't look too great. But how's this?
No, you look perfect. You look perfect. We look perfect. Okay, so people have joined, and we're going to. I love that. Give it to me. So people have joined, and then we're going to start the session.
Excellent.
Again, for those of you that just joined, my name is Entrepreneurship, and I'm your career plug. And today I'll be having the honor to interview a phenomenal woman who is currently the CEO of Dix Connect, Alexandria. And we'll be having an amazing conversation where this conversation will honestly be just around her evolution in being an entrepreneur. So for those of you that are seated listening to this conversation, I think you're going to learn so much about the entrepreneurial space. But then I think also as how complex navigating your career is and figuring it out is, and I think through Alexandra's story we're going to tap into that. So before I start, I just want to just give a big breakdown of how the conversation will then take place. So the first section will just be Alexandra and I having a conversation about her career journey, and then the last part will then be people just joining in to then do a Q&A. So our listeners, our viewers, so this is an opportunity for you to then engage with Alexandra and her story. So even though you can actually, even throughout the session while we're having a conversation, you have a question, you can pose a question, then I will then be able to ask that question, but depending on where that is linked to our conversation. So Alexandra, I'm going to start with a simple question.
Cool.
A lot of people struggle to answer. Even me, I struggle to answer that
Oh no.
question.
Starting strong. Okay, I thought you were gonna ask my favorite color or something. Okay. What's the
But
meaning to life? I don't know.
I mean, you might find it easy, you know. But the question for me is, who are you?
Oh no. It's even worse than I thought. I mean, like, this is what I pay my psychologist a lot of money to help me figure out. So if we can answer this question in this session, you will save me a lot of money in therapy. Oh gosh. I mean, the straightforward answer and the relevant answer, for careers is I define myself as a tech CEO. My most important job is running my company, and essentially comes down very specifically to ensuring that my company is a vehicle providing value to my users, to our clients and to our customers. So we basically just create value for our users, they then pay us for that, which then gets divided up to the shareholders of the company. So essentially it's just about seeing all the moving parts of the company and making sure that everything's pointing in the right direction. So you're kind of like orchestrating the whole thing. You're looking at product development, which in my case is, the tech development. Is that on time? Is it being done well? Is the highest quality standards being maintained? From your sales point of view, is that going well? So all the parts of the business, are those operating well? Are the metrics aligning nicely? And then is the team happy? Are there any things you need to be aware of in the market, any fluctuations happening that could affect your business, any potential competitors? And also forecasting the whole time to the future. What is the healthy business right now? Where you want to be in 10 years' time? Potentially fundraising if necessary, or looking at strategic partnerships. So you're always just looking at, the company as where it is, where you want it to be, and any potential things that could be like harming that. So it depends on what stage of business that what your core responsibilities will be. But at the end of the day, what's important thing is, are you generating value? As an entrepreneur, you kind of are a value genesis in the economy. So you need to take the resources there and combine them in a way that creates excess value for people.
Yeah. And what did you want to be when you were young?
Oh, easy. I'm going to become the president of South Africa.
Oh, was that you?
Always. Always. Still going to happen. Give me 10 years.
I love that. No, and I'm ready for it. I'm ready for it. So did that then shape your view of your career and your life, even heading to high school?
Interestingly, yes, actually. So even though I've ended up now in entrepreneurship, specifically in tech, I've always been kind of compelled to just get stuck in. I think that was the pull to politics, which is kind of getting really involved. So, you know, it was kind of taking a look at the world from a really young age and just being like quite dissatisfied. I think as South Africans, we're like Olympic complainers. We love to look at the world and be like, that's not good enough, that's not good enough, that's not good enough. I was kind of looking at this and just feeling like it's not enough to just complain. It's not enough to just stand there and be like, everything's not good enough. Like, because I'm such a like explosively energetic person, I was looking at the way the world was good enough and being like, I've got a solution to make it better. And then kind of backing myself, being like, actually, like, I think my solution like deserves its time in the sun. I think it deserves to actually be manifested and made real. So then investing that time into building those solutions. And so what I did when I was at school was kind of pulled towards things like debating, pulled towards things like student leadership, student governance. Because I'm such a busybody, I'll get involved in like, you know, even the governance structures of the schools, university. I didn't like something, I would protest. I remember the school I went to, like most South African schools, you know, you're forced to go to chapel, these kind of religious elements. And I was like, no, we need religious freedom. This is like a democratic South Africa. I refuse to get told what religion is. So I had this like, I made a placard and I used to protest outside assembly, like religious freedom. And I tried to get everyone to join in and no one joined in. So I was like protesting by myself. And then the next week I was doing a Save Darfur campaign. So on the back of like my poster was Save Darfur and then religious freedom. And I was like, protest. And it was that then led me, I think, to where I'm now. It was like this, it was this defiance to, it was this dissatisfaction towards the system. It was defiance to authority and almost like the audacity to believe that I could do it better than what I saw. And whether that was through, you know, through politics or just getting involved. And it doesn't necessarily have to always be, you know, in entrepreneurship or starting something. If you just have something that you're really passionate about, and that can be anything, but you're passionate about one thing and you really like it, if you commit yourself to being the best at that, to really become a professional in that aspect and getting involved there, getting involved in like, you know, the governance structures there and how that should be formed. And I mean, our public policy, our constitution, our structure is like as a nation, as a future, is literally us deciding what it wants to be. So if you're really passionate about something and you feel like the current way it's set up is a bit bullshitty, get involved, change it, you know, redefine that industry. Just let that passion drive you. And that's why I think it's so worrying when like kids are pulled into careers where they're not actually passionate about. They just think, oh, my parents tell me to do this or my friends are doing this, but they don't have that same like fire in their belly about like, this is going to make me come alive. Because something you realize when you get to my old age, when I'm 28, it's fucking ancient. But when you get to my age, you realize there's like this conveyor belt of what's the word? You know, you kind of sort of like this like rapidity of life. You feel like you have to get there. You have to like finish school, go to university, get the job, get married. Suddenly you get to states where you're working and you're like, wait, this is what I'm doing for the next like 50 years. And if you find that you're doing something that like, you know, isn't making your soul on fire, then you're like, you got to change that. You know, you can't spend your life doing something that doesn't like make you feel like you're coming alive.
That is so true. And I think what you said there is so powerful. And I'm very interested in trying to dissect how at that young age you had that level of agency, right? And I think at the probability of one having that level of agency at that age is very low, right? Compared to when they're older. So where did you get that agency that allowed you to be this groundbreaker, literally defies everything that is constantly in this pursuit of freedom?
So what's interesting is that I think it's actually not that uncommon. I think that like I was just a naughty kid. Like how many kids are at school get told, it's just like, I hate the education system. Obviously education is precious and it's important and like I'm committed to like, you know, furthering education I can. But this idea where you go to school and you're told to sit in a row, sit in a line, like from 8 o'clock to 5 o'clock, doesn't matter who you are, what your personality, what your skills, your strengths, your weaknesses, how you think, how you solve problems, if you're more creative, more analytical, you just put through this like cookie cutter mold and told, do this, sit still, speak when spoken to, put your hand up. And I hated that. And so like And kids don't learn like that, don't grow like that. You're not supporting everyone's like own brilliance by telling them to be the same as everyone else. So like every time, you know, the naughty kids are sent to detention, are told to keep quiet, are put in the naughty corner, those are the kids actually I think are the most like, you know, have the best ideas, or like, you know, have their own genius. It's just being squashed by a system. And it's things that you get told though that you're wrong. You go to detention, we get demerits, you don't get, you know, like prefectship or awarded, in the traditional sense. So you get kind of told that you're bad. So then as you get older, actually you realize that these traits of being an independent thinker are so good, but the system tries to beat it out of you. So it's kind of like, it's actually an unlearning. You hit, you know, when you start hitting your later teenage years and you have more like conviction yourself, because as a child, if someone tells you you're naughty or you're bad, that cuts you. You know, you have to kind of think when you later on, like, actually, I wasn't wrong. Actually, maybe I did know better than my teachers. Like, maybe when Mrs. Pretorius told me, you know, my Mondeling was bad, actually, my Mondeling was great. You want to bluff, but just so you know. So I think it was just that. It was just like a defiance, believing that, like, especially in adult now, we know, like, most people don't actually know, you know, the answers. We kind of figure it out as we go along. But it's so dangerous to try and tell children that they're right or wrong, or what you're doing is like right or wrong, when I think they're just like, they could have a better insight, they could have a better solution. But if we keep trying to like shut them down, and we keep trying to like make the dissenters and make, like, you know, the contrarian opinions keep quiet instead of speak up, we lose some of our best ideas as a civilization.
No, that's very true. And I think then this leads me to ask you this question of, how were you able to deal with the stress? I remember when I was in grade 11 and the conversations around university was part of the picture, right? Having to choose what you want to study, and the underlying thing that comes with that conversation is this degree is what's going to set your career, right? So you need to make sure that this decision,
even subject choices. Remember subject choices, grade 10.
From subject choices, actually, I think that's when it's actually
traumatizing.
Literally, right? And I felt it in grade 11, where I had to now look at university, what university I want to go to, what qualification I want to attend. Then asking myself what career I want to do. How was that journey like for you?
Oh my gosh, so different. Like when I finished, so I was wild at school. I was like this diehard communist revolutionary. I even had this like China communist youth hat I used to wear at school just to like cause like drama. When I finished school, I mean, I wasn't very, as you can tell, shockingly, I wasn't very popular at school. So when I finished and everyone was, you know, going off to Stellenbosch University, the other thing, they went to DSU, they went to Stellenbosch or UCT or, you know, or whatever, they went to, like, you know, Wits, UJ, whatever it was. I had none of that. I was like, I don't want to go to university. I don't want to step into this conveyor, but I didn't feel this idea to follow that life. So I actually booked a one-way ticket to India. And I said, I'm just going. And everyone said, what are you going to do? And I was like, I'm just going to be free. Realize now that's ridiculous. I mean, you're 17, I say I'm going to go be free in India. I mean, it's the most cliche thing ever. But I was. And I think you kind of have to learn your own lessons. That's the thing, is that if you're still going from one system to the other, you go from the schooling system to the university system to like this strange, you know, job. It's kind of like, when do you have time to actually think for yourself? To kind of be like, what do I actually think? You know, what do I actually believe? You know, like to change your own thoughts, to break away, especially like, and not even from teachers, but from your friends. Like, friends are the best and I absolutely adore them. But like, if you're constantly just like with your friends and you guys are reflecting each other's opinions all the time, and you're saying the same things all the time, when do you actually stop and consider and be like, what do I actually think? Who am I actually? You know? And so like, they're trying to get a breakaway and realize that you're going to make your own mistakes. And that's what I did, is that obviously looking back now, like, I do wish I kind of gone like, not I do wish, I have no regrets about, but like if I go from school to university, it's kind of like, you know, go along with it, but I had to go make those mistakes. I had to be like, actually, I'm checking out the system. Booked a flight to India, just figured it out. I hitchhiked, I worked in youth hostels. I just broke away from everyone and everything, and I just stopped actually. And it was kind of then like, you know, when I decided I did want to go to UCT, it was a decision that I wanted to go learn. I felt like I needed to be empowered. It was after months of traveling, and I'd ended up in Argentina by then, and I had seen so much of the world and so much suffering of the world, especially because where I traveled was like, I had almost nothing. I mean, I was hitchhiking, I was sleeping on couches. And I just saw the extent, of suffering in the world. And I realized that just being another like angry teenager, I wasn't going to affect any positive change. And this drive that I had to kind of like to make the world a better place, I wasn't going to do that, in a youth hostel in Mumbai. But if I had opportunities to go educate myself, empower myself, and then use whatever I had, whatever privilege I had to like make the world a better place in whatever way I could, that seemed worthwhile. And then I had a reason to go study, that was like justifiable, not just because everyone's doing it. It's like, okay, cool, I understand why I'm doing it. And I'm glad I did, because when I went to university, like I didn't mess around. I didn't, I went to every single lecture because I knew I was there. I wasn't there to party. I wasn't there to just, like someone told me to go. I hated it. I'm resentful. I understood the gift of education. There's a privilege to get an education. I understood that I wanted to learn. Also understood how expensive it was. Like I broke down the cost of every single lecture. And I get so cross, when like these 19-year-olds are just like sleeping, I don't go lectures because I'm so hungover or whatever. I can just watch it online. If you actually work out the cost per every single lecture that your parents are paying, or birth providers paying, like someone's paying for that. And when you just flippantly cast it aside, like what does that say to the person who's paying for you? Their time isn't valuable, So when you actually decide you want to go get that education, and then you like, go to every lecture, go to every take it seriously, because you've decided to take that step now. I think you have to decide for yourself.
Oh wow. Ooh.
I got hectic there all of a sudden. Hey.
I literally had to just step back and be like, wow, it's so amazing to realize that you decided to literally just take a break and go and find yourself and figure yourself out. And through that, we're able to find meaning in education. But then how did that experience contribute to the type of degree that you wanted to get? And if evidently the career path you want to follow, was it still now you leading up towards being still a president as well?
Kind of. I don't know. So it's kind of, it gets pretty philosophical at this point, but I've been traveling for a long time, and you kind of exist in different like state of mind where like you're not in this routine of comfort and these serotonin releases. Like it's these long periods of being alone a lot, so you end up thinking a lot. I read a lot of books, a lot of like philosophy books. And what I kind of realized is that like it gets hectic, but I realized a few months into my travels that like I started, the thing I realized with the teachers that, used to tell me that I was wrong when they actually had no authority to tell me if I was right or wrong. Just because I disagreed with them or I had other opinions, or I didn't believe in, sitting in a row or being told to wait my turn to speak, put your hand up, or, speak when spoken to. So I realized that I actually had so much unlearning to do. And I realized that I didn't want to keep piling on other people's knowledge if I didn't understand if it was factually correct or not. Like I wanted to stop and question everything and be like, what is actually true? What is actually false? Like, what is it that people are telling me, and how are they basing their thinking? So I decided to start, I was like, what is actually true in this world? Like, of all these courses, and everything fascinated me. I mean, I applied for everything, literally, for like medicine, law, for economics, for veterinary science, for drama, for sciences, for English literature. I was fascinated in everything, but I was like, what is actually like, is distilled truth? And I was like, physics. Physics is the truth. There's no duplicity around it. There's no opinions. It just is what it is. It's math and physics. So that's honestly what I decided to do. And I was sitting in a youth hostel in Buenos Aires on this like dodgy old computer, and did my application from there and sent it through to UCT to study physics, because I wanted to understand truth from first principles. And it's, to this day, it's still guided so much of my thinking as I think about first principles. Like I need to understand a problem from the basic core, like not just like repeat what someone else has told me in a textbook, but like I need to understand it, deeply understand. And that's why when someone's explaining a problem to me, like at the company, I always, the first thing I always say is like, okay, cool, I'm going to now spend the next 10 minutes just asking questions. And I know I'm going to sound stupid. I know it's going to be like exhausting. I don't care if I look stupid, but I'm just going to ask all the questions. And I want to understand every little piece and pull apart, because someone just throw a problem at you and be like, oh, this thing's broken. Or, oh my gosh, this client is going to like, they're really upset. So you just ask every single question, just ask questions, and say, don't give it, like, I don't want you to explain. I don't want you to try and like, no, not blaming anyone. There's no opinions, no emotions. I just want to understand. That's all. So like, I'm just going to ask stupid questions. So pull apart. You get to the core facts. And then from there, you can then rebuild your solution. But often I feel like people try to offer solutions without first understanding the problem. And that's where the solution is often wrong, and people fight because they're fighting over different problems. So that core understanding that physics gave me is that, like, if you get, like, the numbers don't lie, in the same way that, computers, the numbers don't lie. You get down to the absolute fundamental truths and they build up again. So it has shaped my thinking completely, my background in science, even though now, like, I don't do, I'm in business, I do like spreadsheets and stuff.
Oh, wow. Okay. And I think now my question then comes with the entrepreneurship being part of your career, or being a career that you thought of. When did that start?
To be honest, it didn't start. I didn't even think about it. Like, I never had a decision where I was like, okay, this is going to happen now. It kind of just was happening. And then someone said to me, oh, this is what you're doing. And I was like, oh, I guess it is. I just kind of was, I was doing it. I think often the best ideas are like that, not really. I know a few very successful entrepreneurs who've built remarkable companies because they decided they wanted to build a company together, and they got together and they're like, okay, what should we do? Let's throw ideas out there. But some of the best ideas are people just fixing problems that they were facing, and they found that other people had the same problems that, and were willing to pay them to fix their problems. And that's a business. You're fixing a problem, someone's paying you to fix it. So that's it. You should scale that up then, And it doesn't have to be this hyper scale where you have millions of users, like a Silicon Valley kind of like unicorn. If you're just servicing enough people to cover your burn, how much it costs you to run the company, that's a business. That's fantastic. And that's kind of what happened with me, is that I was solving a problem that I've been dealing with. I'm from the Eastern Cape of Port Elizabeth. When I moved to Cape Town, I couldn't find a place to stay as a student, and it was really difficult. And especially because I didn't know anyone here. I had no friends, no family. I was a year behind everyone else because I'd gone overseas, so I was just completely on my own. And I was like, where do I go to find, student accommodation? There were like posters. I remember, outside the library, there was like a poster board, which is insane. Yeah, so you have to get to campus to see the posters. If you're not in Cape Town, how do you see it? And it was the same across the country. And so I was just realizing, I would like this issue to be solved. And then when I was on student governance, I realized that a lot of people at the university wanted the problem to be solved. And then when I built the website, I realized the whole country wanted this problem to be solved. And now it's really looking like, a larger portion of the world wants the problem to be solved. So it really just happened that I was solving a problem. And somehow I managed to realize what business was through that. I started a publication about it called the Aviation Club. I'll share a link later. And I write articles about this, about discovering what business is from the first principles of solve a problem, add value in the world. If people want to pay you to solve that problem for them, that's it. It's as simple as that. You don't need a BCom degree. You don't need any fancy spreadsheets or charts or, metrics or terminology. Solve a problem. People happy. They'll pay you for it. There's your business.
But then, like, where did you start? Like, so when you realized that there's a problem and you want to fix it, what was the first thing that you did?
So it was interesting. So I was sitting in my little SLC office, and I had all these students coming to me saying, where do I find student accommodation? And then I had all these landlords calling in saying, hey, we list student accommodation. We are the students. And there was a lot of work for me to deal with. And I'm like, I just don't like a lot of work, especially admin work. I'm like, I need to reduce my amount of admin work substantially. So I created a spreadsheet, and I was matching everyone up one at a time. And I'd done computer science as part of my degree. And a spreadsheet is essentially a database, like a website database. And so I was like, oh, if I just put this online, then I can just stick the URL on my door and tell people to go there instead of calling me the whole time, then I can chill. So I thought it'd make my life easier. So I literally just I remember, I think it was over a weekend, I'd gone back to visit my parents in PE in the Eastern Cape, and there's not a lot to do in the Eastern Cape. So I was sort of pretty bored there. And one day I was like, hey, let me just knock together this website. And I remember I got a shared server on Hetzner. It's now called Zanilo. It was Hetzner then. It was 50 Rand a month. I use a very an online package for free. It's called it's a UI kit. I can't remember what it's called now. But literally, I got everything online basically for free. The whole thing cost me 50 Rand a month to register this thing. I did it. I watched a few YouTube videos. If I was confused about how to code things, I knew enough about HTML and CSS. And literally the course of 4 or 5 days, I just built this website. I was like, I'm just gonna put it up. You don't need permission. I don't need to I'm just gonna do it, And I don't need to ask. I mean, I could like ask people who are better at code to do it for me, but then I have to like, wait for them to get back to me. I was like, I should do it myself. And that was it. Simple as that. And look, it was hideous. The website was like, it was really bad. Like, it looked terrible. I'm not a good developer. It didn't work really well, but it worked. It worked well enough that people were like, oh my gosh, like I can use this. And that was it. And then it's just a case of getting better and improving on that.
And then now, when did the shift then start of it being, well, a problem, right, that is now being resolved, to it now being a business? Or you thinking more of like changing the mindset of it now being an actual business that would then gain revenue long term?
Yeah, that is such an interesting question, because you think like, when does an idea become a business? Is it when it reaches, when it makes, is it revenue? Is it profitability? Is it a certain scale size? Like, I think it's actually quite a profound question. I think about that a lot. But when I decided that it was something serious, I think there's been a few key moments. Not one pivotal moment, a few key moments. Like, the one was like when I started getting listings on the platform that weren't people that I'd spoken to. So I called the first couple of landlords and said, hey, listings disconnected. And they're like, okay. But when I started getting random people creating listings, that for me was like, wow, these people don't know me. They don't owe me anything. And they're like using my platform. Like, that's crazy. That was huge. Then I remember like very early on, within like a couple of weeks, we got 4,000 beds listed in Potchefstroom. And that for me was like, first of all, we're out of Cape Town. And like, this is like a UC thing. I was like, wow. And then 4,000, just like, that for me was like a huge moment. I was like, okay, this is something serious. And then another moment was when, Greg Keel, a friend of mine from the SRC, was like, this is a business. I'm going to like, let's do this. And he partnered with me. And Greg is an absolute machine. He's like, when he decided, now Greg is like an extremely talented man. So when he turned down all these opportunities, he was studying law at the time. He had a job lined up. He had this whole thing. And he turned it all down to do Dix. I was like, wow, this is serious. And then I was speaking to one of my lecturers also about this. And I was going to start my honors. And my lecturer said to me, look, you've never been a great student, but I think this might be a good opportunity for you to be an entrepreneur. And then when he told me, basically, he's like, take the leap. You can always come back and study again next year. Like, I think you should drop out, you should go for it. So it's like, it's a series of small pushes, it's like, you kind of need that reassurance that like, are people pushing you towards this moment? It's just like, I think there's a bunch of those small pushes. And then of course the big one was then we closed an investment round really early in, like 9 months in, and we raised, like, I don't even know, like 10 times the amount of money that we looked at. We raised 12 million rand, which was like insane for a seed round. It was the biggest seed round, I think, in South Africa at the time. And I think it's still the largest seed round raised by a female entrepreneur in South Africa. So obviously then it was pedal to the metal, we got to go. This is happening, No turning back, no take back these.
No turning back at all. And now I want to take it just a step back, right? For those, I want people to understand how, like, it started off from just such a small idea, right? I want you to unpack for me when, after making the website, right, as a mess as it was based on your description, what was it doing at that time,
I mean, so here's the interesting thing about also, like, when I get quite philosophical about building business, is that you just have to solve the problem. I think that, like, if you're quite a creative person, you have like a million ideas you want to do. And like in the early days, one of the biggest mistakes I made is I lost focus. Like, I looked at this issue of, okay, what would be a cool ecosystem to build for students? I got a million ideas, because like people want a million things. Like, we can do housing, we could do food, we could do transport, we could do parties, we could do sport events, we could do clothing exchanges, we could do like a fintech tool, we could do like a million things. And so like, because I realized I could churn out features so quickly on code, we were just like pumping out features really fast, because by then another friend of mine from UCT had ended up joining. And so there was 3 of us in the team, and we were just like going full stuff. I mean, it was like 3 people who were like hyper energetic, like just like, pushing out features. And we kind of, I think one of the biggest mistakes we made is that like it was cool, but like you kind of lose control of the quality when you do a million things at once. Like, no matter how good you are, if you're a first entrepreneur especially, and like, your early 20s, like, you're not as good as you think you are. Like, you really just aren't. Like, you need to just pick one thing and do that one thing really well. And that's what people will pay you for. And if people need to pay you, give you their hard-earned money, then provided value. So we realized like actually just focusing just on the housing issue, just on like that was it. Like we want to get you a home. That is it. Like if you're a student and you're going to university, we just want to find you a home. Like everything else that we can do, it's super cool. It's on our vision board. We're going to get to it next year, 5 years time, 10 years time. But right now, we just want to house students in South Africa. So it literally was just that. It's just like as simple as that. It's like it's focusing on that. Like in all these really cool fancy tools people are talking about, if it's blockchain or AI or like any other like really cool features or or smarter fintech integrations, yeah, they're cool. But like start simple and deliver a really high quality experience and just like fulfill your mandate. Like if I'm telling you that you're going to find a home, I need to find you a home. Like everything else comes after that.
And then how did you, so reflecting now on your journey, right, of you being this entrepreneur, give me a moment in your life where it was difficult, but one that changed and shifted the way of thinking, of repositioning your business, of even evolving your company.
Can I give an example that isn't business related, but personal challenge?
Doesn't have to.
Okay, well, one the first one came to mind was when I first ran for SRC. I didn't get on, and I was devastated. I do not take failure well. I was gutted. And I'm kind of bad loser. So what I did is I booked a flight to Tanzania literally like the next day. And I flew out and I was like, I'm going to go climb Kilimanjaro. Because I just had to like kind of reassert my ability to like still do stuff. I was like, I'm the worst human ever. And I was like, I have to go do this mountain. And I was completely unprepared. I mean, I hadn't done any training. I mean, I exercised, pretty frequently. I wasn't like mountain fit. I wasn't fit enough to climb Kilimanjaro. I used to smoke back then, which was so gross, but I used to smoke cigarettes, and so my lungs weren't in a great state. I didn't have the right equipment, literally. I had stuff that I had like gotten on the way or like just in the town there, completely unprepared. Anyways, but I got there to this mountain and I was like set in my mind. I'm like, I'm going to get top of this mountain. I need to kind of prove to myself again that I've got this. And the first 2 days were chilled. I mean, you kind of just like, it's hiking. I was like, oh, I got this. And then on the third day, it started getting hectic. And so I started feeling it. And then the nail in the coffin was I got food poisoning. I ate something like dodgy. Yeah. And it just, that like grinding sensation in your stomach when it's like you're in agony. So now I'm at 4,000 meters. It is snowing. It is freezing. I'm coughing up my lungs. And now it's great. I was puking like non-stop from the food poisoning. So I couldn't eat anything. So you're burning thousands of calories every day from the exercise because you're scaling 1,000 meters every day. I couldn't sleep and I was just sick. And my body was so physically weak. And everyone's like, you're going to die. You need to turn around. And I was 19 also at the time. They're like, you're going to die. You need to turn around. And I was like, I die or I get to the top. I became kind of crazy. I was like, there's only two options. I die or get to the top. Like either I'm walking down after me or my corpse is going down. But there's no option. And you kind of can distill your life down into the present moment where I knew that all I had to do was take another step. And if I just took this next step, I knew I just had to take another step. And that was it. I didn't have to think about, 4 hours time. I didn't think about 8 hours time. I didn't have to think about the next week or the next year or how to get back. I had to take a step. That's all I had to do is take a step. And I realized that the capacity for human endurance and strength, you are so much stronger than you think you are when it comes to it, If you just distill it down to this moment right now, okay, what I need to do to survive? What I need to get this mountain? I need to take one more step right now. I'll take a step and I'll dry heave and retch up. And then I'll be like, okay, stop, reassess, one more step. And the crazy thing is most people on summit night, you leave at midnight and it's supposed to be 4 hours to summit. It took me 10 hours. People had lapped me and I was still getting out. And I was like, I don't care. I'm going to get there. I'm going to get there. And I summited, and I think I came down and I was broke me and remade me. And I just realized that you're capable. You really, really are more capable than you think.
Oh, wow. Guys, that for me, I learned so much from that. And I think you even saying this also takes me back to how even when I ran for SRC in my first year as well. And I remember the weeks leading up to the voting and you constantly having to just sacrifice so much of your time campaigning and everything. and then get to a point where the results come out and you don't make it, right? It was, for me, I was shattered. I was, and the first thing I was thinking, oh my goodness, what are people going to think? What are people, and you literally start thinking of like, you a failure, everything.
You feel ashamed. You feel ashamed of yourself. It's hectic, it's deep.
And then you actually start to realize, I think for me, that I think as well was, I think one of the greatest lessons that I've actually also learned about myself and just how capable I am, you know, and one experience or journey does not invalidate your worth or the value that you have. So I thank you. That is, whew, that is big. That is so big. And then now looking back at your journey, I think it's a similar question to what I asked you now, but what is the greatest lesson? You can tell me this, or it could be something different, but what is the greatest lesson that you've learned, or how let me shift it into your business, right? What is the greatest lesson that you've learned about being an entrepreneur that you think entrepreneurs need to be more aware of?
Interesting. I think if you ask me this in any week, my answer would change. But my answer this week is trust your vision. If people are always going to disagree with you, you can't please everyone. You're going to have an idea. No matter how diplomatic you try to be, no matter how thoughtful you try to be, someone's going to find issues with what you're doing or your idea. Be true to your vision. Be true to yourself. And then you have to, you know, like, if you ask me in a month's time, I'll probably say teamwork, teamwork, teamwork. But at the moment, what served me is that, like, be true to your vision. Obviously, like, don't be a dictator. Listen to everyone. Be considerate. Be thoughtful. But, like, if you've really thought about it, you've put the effort in, you've done your homework, you've done your due diligence, like, stay true to yourself. Don't let, like, fear or shame or, you know, being, like, socially excluded stop you. If you feel like you can see something beautiful, you can see, like, a truth, stay true to that.
Cool. And how difficult has it been for you as a woman navigating the entrepreneurship space?
I think, well, because, like, I'm such a I'm just like an over the top loud person that I think that's kind of just, like, masked everything else. I mean, I'm just, like, my overwhelming qualities, just, like, how loud I am. And so I think, yeah, I mean, I've never really noticed. I don't know. I mean, I guess, like, I've never been in that. I've never had the experience of comparing, you know, obviously, male versus female perspective. I don't know how, like, if it would have been easier or harder, or, you know, any way I could have gained or suffered from it. I don't know. I mean, talking to my male friends who are entrepreneurs, I think they've been on a pretty similar journey to me. You know, it's always a hardship. There's no building a company is pure meritocracy. You know, you just have to add value, and if you can figure it out, you can figure it out. You know, and that's it. You just have to keep, like, hustling and trying and going for it. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the one thing I will say is that there's a lot of support out there for female entrepreneurs. There's a lot of, like, female entrepreneur organizations. And I've definitely felt quite, like, nurtured by female mentors in the space who've really gone over beyond for me. I mean, I'm not afraid to send someone a cold email and be like, hey, can you meet for coffee, or can you do me a favor? I'm not some people, like, you know, don't like asking for favors. I'll ask for favors. And people, generally have been incredibly accommodating. I've never felt snubbed or felt, like I didn't belong in a space. But also, I'm like a bull of a human being. Like, I don't care if I belong in a space or not. I'm going to go there, and it's going on my space. And so you got to belong in my space, not me belonging in your space. And so I will go into a room that's all men. But again, because I'm such a loud person, I think I kind of like, this is welcome to my room, everyone.
And I love that. But for someone who is watching, right, that has just come up with an idea and have a solution to a problem that they're trying to solve, and are looking for spaces or a community where they can be supported in turning their sort of like idea into a reality, what advice or tools do you have for someone who's in that position?
It's very industry specific. So what your idea, is it more creative? Is it tech based? Is it like a business, like is it a brand? Is it a service, a product? So it's very specific. But I think the most important thing is just, like, be very clear on what you're trying to do. Like, what does success look like? Because, like, you can start with something and kind of just like follow your intuition. But then I think you'll waste a lot of time. And if you waste time, you might lose some of your motivation. And then you kind of like, it's hard to keep momentum up. If you know, okay, cool, in a year's time, this is what success looks like. And like, not just, you know, sentences, numbers. Success is X. It's this much revenue, or this many followers, or this many clients, or this many markets we're operating in, whatever it is. You know, you go write down what success is, start at those numbers, then work back. Okay, cool, where am I right now? How am I going to get there to that place? So literally just like have a very, very clear plan, because then you don't have to think anymore, because motivation comes and goes in waves. You can be the most motivated person in the world today, but we all know that, you know, first month of January, first month of the year of January, first 2 weeks of January, everyone hits the gym. Everyone's like, new year, new me, I'm going to be working out. February comes along and it's like, okay, I was just kidding about the new me part. So if you just create rules about how you're going to get there, then you have to think about it. There's no decision fatigue. You're like, okay, cool, I decided that in this week I need to be doing this to achieve these goals. So I would say just be very clear on what success is, write it down, and then work back from where you are now and be like, okay, cool, this is the rule of how I get there. There's no room for debate, there's no room for conversation. Like, this is what I need to do. You wake up and do it. And like, don't be like ridiculous about it. For example, like I'm saying low battery. Ooh, you can't like, you know, go from not working out to wanting to like running 10Ks every day. But you can say, you know, every single day, I'm going to go for a 20-minute walk. That's it. So that's a 20, and you tick off a list, you know. But then by next month, I'm going to be running for those 20 minutes. And the next month, I'm going to do 5Ks. And then you don't think about it. But like, if you slowly tick it off that list, there's just a sense of accomplishment that comes. So yeah, I'll say just plan for like your motivation to be at low points in the future, because it will be. You're human.
True, very true. And I think I'm going to ask my last question. And while I'm asking this question, you're answering this question to our viewers, please. I'm now entering into the Q&A. So please do type your question so that once Alexandria has responded, then I can just ask your questions. You mentioned mentoring, right? And I think a lot of us young people don't understand the importance of having a mentor. So I want you to take me through your journey of finding a mentor, how you were able to even find that mentor for you, and actually use the opportunity that comes with having a mentor.
So the most important thing I'd say is like, you have to be like, have some audacity to just like go out there, put yourself out there. Like, people are going to say no to you, don't take it personally. Like, you want a mentor who's kind of like, who's done what you do. Don't go for like someone who like, I know, brands themselves as like, I don't know, like an expert in like, you know, this field. Like, okay, what have you done? And they're like, oh, nothing, but I talk about it all the time. Get someone who's actually walked the journey. So let's say, for example, you really want to be, I don't know, let's say you want to be a chef. You know, find who you admire as like a really good chef and be like, hey, it's so, your career is like so inspiring. Oh my gosh, you open these restaurants, you have pioneered these different like techniques, like your career has inspired me, like really understand it, like, and like, don't give them extra work, take the work on yourself. Can we meet up once a month on a Saturday from 3 to 4 after the Zoom call? I'll send my list of questions beforehand, structured for them, and they'll do then some feedback and be like, oh, okay, I like it, but I don't like the structure. It makes more sense to actually do every second week. And kind of take that first step, like make it easy for them to agree. There's nothing worse than someone says, hey, can you mentor me? And I'm like, man, I'm busy. Like, you put the effort in, you know, say when we're meeting, how are we going to meet, what do you want to get out of this, what questions do you want to cover, give me an agenda beforehand, like take the initiative so it's easy for the person to agree. Because the people you want to go after are going to be busy people, you know, to ask them. And they're just like, ask, just put yourself out there. Go on forums, LinkedIn is your best friend. Just like, I just go, like, add people. And I like crazy people, like people who should never accept me. I'm just like, hey. Because sometimes you put in the email address to the person. Like, I just guess until I get it right. And then just send those messages. Then, I mean, all they can do is like, you know, ignore you or block you. But like, just try. Because then your son will be like, oh, okay, actually, your perspective is really cool. Sure, you know, let's try this out. But also, if someone says no, don't take it personally. People are busy, you know. So I would say like go for someone who's maybe like towards the end of their career, so like, you know, towards the more like retiring stage, because often people that have got lesser workload then, but they've got so much knowledge, you know. And so even though like they say they want to spend time with their families, they actually don't. They want to work, you know. We're just different. They want to pass that knowledge on. So goes to the end of their career, they're more likely to kind of help you out. If you go for someone who's like in their 20s and 30s and 40s, they're going to be grinding. So chances are they're going to be like, I just haven't got time, you know? But someone, I'd say, like in their 50s, 60s, a lot of knowledge, a lot more like they kind of have time now. They want to pass it on. They're a lot more wise. Yeah, and just reach out.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, we have a question here from Chengue. So she's saying many businesses have intention to scale, but don't always get it right. What's your advice on scaling a business organically and or exponentially? That's a good one.
That's a good one. The most important thing is make sure you're scaling sustainably. So like you want to make sure that you're covering your burn. So like a business isn't an NGO. You have to make profits. You know, you got to make sure that you're making money. Like scaling users in Silicon Valley, you can just scale users and be like, oh, look, I've got like 1,000 growth in users. If that's not translating to revenue, you can't scale that because your spend's going to increase. But if your revenue isn't increasing commensurately, then you got a non-start. You're going to run to the end of your runway. That's in your business. Like the first rule of business is don't run out of money. That's a really bad place to be in. So just make sure that you're making enough money to cover your burn and have good metrics set up, live metrics. So you can see, okay, as I put more money into marketing or as I hire more salespeople, or as I do the steps necessary to grow, it's going to result in more revenue. And watch it to see that it does match like that. You don't want to kind of, you know, throw in 10 million rand in marketing and realize it hasn't given you 100 million rand in sales.
True.
So just grow your revenue first.
Okay. And then I'll ask another question. And then whoever that wants to ask a question, please ask. And then I will then end the session. Okay. So my question, my very last question to you is, you have stated that you want to become a president before, right? And you will in 10 years. How are you working towards achieving that goal?
You know, I think something one of my mentors told me is that nothing speaks louder than your track record. Like you can talk as much as you want, but what have you done? Like judge someone by their actions, not by their words. People say whatever they want, but like what they do shows what they actually think. So your track record, delivering excellence. Like if I made a promise to someone, like my investors, like investors give me money, I made a promise that I'm going to get a return for the investment. You know, my team, they're relying on me to make sure that they can keep getting their salary every month. My business partners relying on me. Our users are relying on us to get them tenants, to get them homes. So it's like fulfilling a mandate. So like whatever your job is, being a professional about that. Like I'm going to provide value. I'm going to fulfill my mandate and show a consistent track record of fulfilling a mandate. If I make you a promise, like I'm not telling you I'm going to like fulfill that promise. You can see I fulfill that promise. For the last 10, 20, 30 years of my career, all I've done is fulfill that and exceed expectations. And that's what's the important thing. So whatever you kind of set your task to, be like, okay, cool, my job is to, you know, do whatever it is. You can see that I've, like in the past, fulfilled that mandate well. And I think that track record is, I mean, that's your entire curriculum advice. That's everything.
Perfect. And the last question for the interview is from Chrissy, who's saying that, can you tell us about one time or one story which made you really proud of your business?
Oh, geez, there's so many. I mean, like, I think it's thinking of one moment so hard. So it really is all the small ones. Like, I mean, the big things, I suppose, is just like when there's like the really big flashy moments are exciting. You know, it's like raising the big fundraising rounds, landing a very big client is always really exciting. Launching a big campaign. We just launched version 3 of our app, which was amazing. You know, becoming profitable is really exciting. But I think what it is, it's like in times of adversity, when the team is feeling quite low. Let's say like everyone's exhausted. We've done like a big sprint, or there's been like a lot of tension or a lot of stress. Like last year with COVID was really stressful for everyone, and people still pull through. Like they still show up, they still do their job, they're still like doing the best they can. That's when I'm really proud. It's like when times are tough and people are still performing to their best. You know, they're not giving up. They're still like fighting the fight. I think that's what moments I'm just like, wow. Like that's when I'm just like so proud. Like of this team that I've built. Like I'm like, yeah, like one day we pushed out a big release for our app, and something had gone wrong, and we basically the whole team had to like work the whole weekend. And from Friday right through up until like I think like Saturday, we slept in the office. We didn't leave. We ordered pizzas and we figured it out. And the whole team came in, canceled the weekend plans. Everyone was exhausted. They just wanted to go home. but you know, we got it done. And it's those moments I'm just like, wow, like it's when things are hard and you choose to keep going. That's amazing.
Oh, no, you did that, sis. You did that. With that being said, everyone, thank you so much for joining into our Instagram live conversation. Alexandria, thank you so, so much for taking your time to come and have a conversation with us, and even being very patient with us during our technical difficulties.
It happens.
Us and imparting so much knowledge, hope, and perseverance as we just navigate through our career. So thank you so much. I think a lot of the times in life, we really have moments where we need people who we can relate to, people who are in a similar age group, or in any way that we can relate to, that we can see are slaying life, are slaying their careers, but also showing us that, you know what, it's not as pretty as it looks as well, but you work very hard for you to achieve what you have, and are also just vulnerable in your story and your pains, the scars that have evidently made you who you are. So thank you so much for that. So with that being said, I think from my side as your career plug, thank you to UCT Golden Key for partnering with me. I'm so excited about this partnership. And to our viewers, please do tune in for more Golden Key UCT events and my platform, which is at YourCareerPlug, the handle. Alexandria, is there anything else that you'd like to say?
Be happy. Enjoy life.
And that's how we end it. Thank you so much, everyone. Enjoy your evening and the rest of your weekend. Bye.